Buenos dias. It's 10 o'clock. I just finished doing an interview with this woman out of Kenya. And that video is going to drop on Friday. Good morning. How are you guys doing? Gonna get my tea. Buenos dias, everybody. All right, I'm going to start seasoning this. Well, no, maybe I'll wait. Yep. Good morning. Good morning. Buenos dias. So happy to be with you guys today. It's a cloudy morning in Panama City. You know, I had to interview someone and, playing with the light. It just was, this recording thing is hard work. All right, so I have 2 pieces of salmon. I took the skin off and I am going to, I don't want to season it yet because you never want to over season your fish. So I'm going to leave that here. And then I'm going to start with the veggies. So what we're going to do, I promise we're going to do quinoa, some kind of a quinoa salad, right? So I went to PriceSmart and I was able to get only white quinoa. So I was thinking of doing some roasted chickpeas, but because I have white quinoa, I've changed my mind and I'm going to do the white quinoa and then I'm going to use edamame, green peas, and I have some leftover spinach, because when you're cooking, you're always thinking of contrast, right? In your colors. So if I had the red quinoa, I was going to put black beans and I wanted to do some Brussels sprouts, but yesterday I couldn't get out and I couldn't go get it at Reba Smith. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do with the white quinoa because I want to have that green contrast. And then we're just gonna cook these 2 pieces of salmon and we're gonna put them right on top. How's everybody doing? Good morning, Sincere Supreme. Aaron, I don't know who you are, but you better get off my live, okay? All right, so let's get started. We're gonna leave the quinoa over here. So now I'm gonna cook the quinoa in here, again, because I don't want too much of the carb, but quinoa is good. But the problem I have is if I like something, I'll just eat too much of it. And that's a bad habit, really bad. All right, I'm gonna finish my tea. Green tea with, I had some mint and a couple of cinnamon sticks and ginger, fresh ginger. Okay, that's good. I saw this woman the other day. She was talking, she said she's 61. I mean, she looks really good. She says she drinks hot water, she said, with lemon, but I guess warm. And that's always good. If you wake up in the morning, get a cup of warm water and put some fresh lemon or lime, it's kind of cleansing. So that's a good idea. But I'm a tea drinker, so I could drink tea all the time. So someone asked, when I ask what we should talk about today, I think I got one suggestion, said something about something that happened in your life that inspired you. My life has been a little bit crazy, but I am grateful to the Lord for all the experiences, because when you are going through life, you should look at all the experiences as an opportunity to learn and grow, right? Because otherwise, it's, you didn't learn anything. Yes, this week with our ladies group, I'm just going to chop some peppers. I have multicolored. So in addition to the green peas and the spinach, we're going to pop some peppers in there. And I was telling them about my story of how when I came to the US at 18, as an 18-year-old, green, wet behind the ear, innocent little girl, and how I had a rough time, coming from the Caribbean where it was warm and you're wearing sundresses all the time. And then all of a sudden you're wearing, coats and stuff and boots. I used to cry myself to sleep. I'd be so cold. Yeah. And then I was telling them the story about how I was living with this family, and we had a fallout. And I think I came to the U.S. in New York. I was 18, so I'm talking 18 to 19, and I'm talking about innocent, never been anywhere. So, and then I was basically homeless, and you know what? I tell the girls, whenever I tell that story, I cry, and I don't want to be crying here on camera. But it was one of those life lessons. But I went to Burger King, I remember, and I was thinking, what am I going to do? No family. That family was the only connection I had to this new country. My mom was, a single mom, was back home in Haiti. And I remember crying my eyes out. And then this young woman that I knew from nowhere just came across. She put her hand on my shoulder and she said, "Why are you crying so much?" And I said, El Cangrejo. I'll talk about that in a minute, Haley, okay? And she said, "Why are you crying so much?" And I explained the situation to her. And she said, "Well, I know this little lady who's looking for somebody to stay with her." And she took me to that lady. I mean, now I'd be worried that she'd be wanting to traffic me, right? As a 19-year-old. But those were different times. And so she took me to that little lady. I lived with that little lady until I got married. So I'm saying this to say that sometimes, God put people's in your path to help you. I said she was an angel that God had sent to help me out. And she became a good friend. And that lady that I stayed with ended up being, how do they call that? Not a godmother, but to my wedding. Anyway, so many other things have happened in my life as I go along. Somebody mentioned the robbery story that I had. But again, the robbery kind of helped me troubleshoot and figure out what to do in a strange country. Thank goodness I speak a little Spanish. So now I can tell people how important it is to learn Spanish, and how if something happens to you that you have to go to the police station and get a report. Another thing that I could share is that I remember going to Rwanda when I went to Ghana. After I went to Ghana, and if you haven't seen my video about why I chose Panama over Ghana, go watch it, okay? If you go into the playlist, you're gonna see it. And I landed in Rwanda. Sometimes you're trying to save a penny. I am a budget traveler. So I took a red eye and I landed in Rwanda at 1:30 in the morning, their time. Well, they don't speak really English in Rwanda. They speak Kinyarwanda, which is like what they speak in Kenya. What do they call them? What's the language they speak in Kenya again? I'm drawing a blank. But anyway, I landed at the airport, and my idea was, okay, I'm going to get a SIM card because I had made arrangements for someone to pick me up from the airport. I said, okay, I'm going to get a SIM card and I'm going to call or WhatsApp, and then because you do need Wi-Fi to use your WhatsApp, and then I'll call the guy. So, and then I said, and I landed in there, and it was quiet, dead quiet at 1:30 in the morning. And I was like, I'm thinking I'm at the ATL or Chicago O'Hare or something. It's like, no, it's not like that. Everything is shut down. I could not get a SIM card. And then I get my bag, and I said, okay, well, maybe I'll just sit here and wait for the morning. I've spent some time at airports, like most of you have. And I said, and then I'll call the guy in the morning. Here comes a security guard, and he's saying something I don't understand. Oh, Swahili. That's the language they speak in Kenya. And then he said, so he pushed me out, and I ended up outside the airport. Of course, it's not a huge airport. So I'm outside the airport. I don't have Wi-Fi. I don't speak Rwanda. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, what am I going to do? So I'm standing there, and then I saw a bunch of men standing around. Okay. I see a bunch of guys standing there. Well, I'm making hand gestures, and they're like looking at me like, mind you, by that time, it's like 2:00 in the morning. And then I said, okay. So I said a quick prayer, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? Because I couldn't call because I had no Wi-Fi. And then all of a sudden, this young woman comes around, and she said, can I help you? And I was like, oh my God, you speak English. I almost gave her a hug. And then she said, oh, I can let you use my hotspot if you want to call somebody. At that time, I didn't know how to do that. I'm like, how do you do that? She took my phone, and she put her hotspot information in there, and all of a sudden the message started coming, pop, pop, pop. So the moral of the story is, when you are in a situation, sometimes God sends angel in your path to help you, okay? So don't be like that guy that God sent the boat, and you're like, no, I'm waiting for God to come get me. Have you read that story? This guy was drowning. He was hanging on a branch, and he said, God, please help. And God sent a boat. Somebody said, come on. He's like, no, I'm waiting for God. Don't do that. So I called the guy. No, by that time, he had sent a message to my phone to say, I can't come get you, and I'm sending my friend to come get you. And I'm like, your friend? So I'm like looking around, and I'm like, Maggie, and none of those guys. At the corner of my eye, I see someone coming around, and I'm like, Maggie, I'm showing him the message. He's like, yeah. And I'm like, English? Nope, he didn't speak English either. So I'm like, okay. And then it's like almost 2:30, 3:00 in the morning. Do you get in the car with someone you don't know in a strange country? I didn't have a choice. So I called the guy again. I'm like, is it safe for me to get in this car with your friend? He's like, yeah. Because I booked him to get your guide. So I felt a little bit protected, right? So I got in the car with the guy. I showed him the address of the Airbnb. And I said, he looked like he had no clue. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? So we started driving slowly. Now, I don't think he even had a Google map or anything like that. And we started driving. And then maybe a mile out, we come to this police checkpoint with these guys with big old bazookas, guns, because Rwanda is a police state country, okay? and they really police really heavily to protect their people. And I have, I'm quite okay with that. But that was like, I'm in this car with this strange person, and now I see these guns. I was a little spooked. So, and then the guy, you should see how very respectful the guy was. It was like, this is not somebody you want to joke around with, the police, right? So the guy had to pop his trunk. They looked through his trunk, and then they let us go. So it was good. But we still didn't know what my Airbnb was. So finally, I'm keep gesturing to him, and I'm like, call the guy back. So I give him the phone. I'm like, he called the original driver, and they're like, blah, 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 I don't know what they're saying. And I'm like, that was kind of, I don't know if it was the right thing to do. Maybe I should have waited till the morning to sitting outside. The good thing is that it wasn't cold or hot. So anyway, that was a spur of the moment decision. So the guy is telling him, giving him direction as to where to take me. And we're just driving slow in the middle of the night. But the Airbnb host had said that the building was across the street from a girls' school. And I kept looking as we were driving to see if I could see a school. And wouldn't you know, after maybe a 10, 15-minute drive, I saw the school. And I was like, I'm pointing right to the left. So I knew the building was on the right. We found the place, you guys, okay? So now it's like close to 4 in the morning. And I said, everything is dark. Who's gonna open? Because in Africa, most places have like big iron gates, right? Some of them are electronic and some are manual. And they usually have like a guard at the gate. But it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. So I did not want to be too loud, but I started banging on that metal door. And after a while, this young man came out, sleepy eyed. He's like, and I'm like showing him my reservation. And he's like, oh, yeah. So he opened the door and let me in. So, and I have more stories like that. Not only Muslim cover their hair. No, I'm not Muslim. Oh, you mean with the thing I'm wearing? No. Usually when you see us cover our hair, it means we might have a bad hair day. Oh my God. But anyway, I found the Airbnb and I had a good time in Rwanda. Even though I did not end up, wanting to retire there. But that was another one of those experiences. Oh, man. All right. Somebody wanted to know about El Cangrejo. I live in Panama City, right? Panama City, of course, is the main city in Panama. I like it because I have everything available to me, and I don't really want to consider living anywhere else. I can go to the opera, I can go to concerts. I have choice of food, restaurant. I'm not a big restaurant person because I prefer to cook my food, but it is one of the reasons why I like living here. But somebody had asked me before to do something about the geography. You know that Panama is a stretch of land. We call that the isthmus. And it's got Colombia to the east and Costa Rica to the west. Panama is not very big, okay? Somebody said you could if you have a rental car, you can drive from one end to the other in 8 hours. So it is not a big country. But Panama has 10 provinces. What we might consider in terms of American states, right? We call them provinces. They also call them provinces in South Africa. We have provinces in South Africa. So the provinces are broken down into districts. And then the districts are broken down into neighborhoods. The neighborhoods, you could say, I wouldn't say they're like little cities, maybe smaller than a city, but we have the Panama province, and then we have the Panama district. And within that district, we have 26 type different neighborhoods, all right? Like I said, I don't call them cities, but they're like little neighborhoods. And like most cities, like if you go to Paris, right? You know, the arrondissement, you know, every little one, they have their own little flavor. What's cooking? We're making quinoa, kind of a salad with some edamame, green peas, a mixture of peppers and onions, and then we're cooking some salmon. Very simple. Okay? So now I'm seasoning. Ooh, that looks so pretty. I'm seasoning the peppers, the onion, that looks good. So 26 neighborhoods in Panama City. Each neighborhood looks a little bit different, and there are certain things that are unique to them. Now, as an expat, people who are visiting, slap your mama, people who are visiting, we tend to congregate in certain areas, okay? And of course, when you come to Panama, you have to decide, do I want to live in the city, like myself? Do I want the beach? Do I want the mountains? Some people can't stand the heat, and it is warm here in the city. They want to go to Boquete. Yes, thank you. Want to go to Boquete. Some people just, they're beach bum. And that's the beauty of Panama. You have a choice. We have a variety of climates. Somebody said so many microclimates. I don't know how many, but I know it's warm in the city, but you can get cooler weather in the mountains, like in Chiriquí, going towards Costa Rica. All right. So with the 26 neighborhoods, expats tend to congregate to certain ones, right? So you're going to hear about El Cangrejo. Somebody asked about El Cangrejo. You feel hungry. That's funny. All right. So I'm going to leave this here. Okay. I'm going to put it in, yeah, we're going to put it on the side because I'm going to be using the same one for the fish. So this one is for the quinoa, okay? All right, and we're gonna start with the quinoa now, because while the quinoa is cooking, you know, towards when the water has evaporated, then we'll do the fish. El Cangrejo is one of the most popular spots here in the city. Somebody said this morning that it's very bohemian. I guess so, but it is, I don't know how big it is. I think they say El Cangrejo means the crab in Spanish. And it is very expat friendly. Lots of Airbnbs, but also some buildings where you can lease them, right? It's very walkable. They have decent sidewalks, which is not something that we can say about a lot of areas in Panama. That's why some people say, well, I have issues with walking. If you do, then you need to just consider using Uber or a driver. Hopefully you can get in and out of the car, even if you use a walker. But if you want to say, oh, I have a scooter, can I come here to Panama with it? Maybe not in the city, and only in certain spots in the city will you be able to have a sidewalk that is compatible to using a scooter. So I would say no. Somebody said yesterday in my comments that in Volcan, they have good sidewalks. I know here another neighborhood, one of those 26 is Costa del Este. Costa del Este means the East Coast, and it's a planned community. And because they had planned it more recently, they have underground cabling, you know, for internet. What do they call that? I forgot the fancy name. But they do have decent sidewalks. But the city itself being older, there's very uneven sidewalks. People have fallen, broken ankles, broken elbows. So it can be difficult. But El Cangrejo has decent sidewalks, okay? And the other thing that you have there, lots of restaurants, all kinds of restaurants. We have little mini not restaurant, mini like bodegas in the US where like a convenience store type thing. And I'm gonna do a short video about that. Only owned by Chinese here in the city and in the country, and they sell everything, a little bit of everything. So we have pharmacy also in El Cangrejo, coffee shop galore, different cuisine, Vietnamese, Asian, Italian. And I think that's one of the reasons people love El Cangrejo. The other thing you have in El Cangrejo are different hotels. When people are coming for a visit, they stay there, and they also have some long-term hotels that can rent. Like I think the Marriott has some, the Waldorf Astoria, they have apartments. So if you like that kind of lifestyle and you want everything to be the amenities to be what you're used to, they have studio apartments, with a nice bed, but you probably, some of them even have a kitchen. So you have choices. So a lot of people like the El Cangrejo area because of that. How much money do you need to retire in Panama? Well, that is a personal question. And we always say it depends on your lifestyle. It depends on what you want, what's important to you. I'm chopping some onion because I'm going to get ready for the quinoa. What I want to do right now, I'm going to boil some water, and I'm going to put my green beans and my edamame in the hot water, and then I'm going to shock them with some cold water because I want them to stay green, okay? So I don't want them to overcook. So hang on. So in Panama, this lady asked me the other day, she says, can I retire in Panama with $1,500 a month? And I think I'm going to be doing some research and do a video about that. I think you can. I think it might be difficult for you to live in the city on $1,500 a month, right? Yes, we do have some neighborhoods where you can find a cheaper apartment, but is it going to be to your standard? Are you going to feel safe? A lot of us want to stay in the city, in those high-rise buildings that are well-maintained, 24-hour security, right? And accessibility to like the metro, the bus line. So it depends on what you want. If you go to Boquete or some smaller towns like Las Tablas, Chitre, yes, you probably could. So it all depends. And how many bedrooms do you want? Do you want a view? Do you want a city view? Do you want water view? So, it's all over the place. Basic living. And again, it depends on what you call basics. And I think I've seen some apartments, $850 would be a low end for an apartment a month. Internet is around $50 a month. Telephone about the same. Electric in the city, it can be high if you run your AC a lot. We don't have central AC in most apartments. So each room has a unit. So what you do is you turn that on when you're in that room. If you don't have the AC running 24/7, you might cap it at about $100 a month. I pay about $85 a month, but that's with my discount. If you're retired and you have the pensionado visa, you can go to the electric company and ask for what we call the jubilado discount. And they take 25% off of that. That's pretty good, right? And the same thing about um, your airline. If you're traveling home and you have a round trip ticket and you buy it here, whoa, you get 25% off of your airline ticket. Good, right? So, and then food, it depends, right? I don't eat meat, and I could say I can easily spend between $80 to $100 a week, right? But I like fresh stuff, right? So if I go buy fish, you guys saw my short video about fish. It could be, you know, I can buy nice fish for like $20 and it will last me a week or two. So it all depends on your lifestyle. So let's see, we're like 100, 200, 1,000. So you could make it work. I don't want to drive. I enjoy walking. I always walk an hour every morning. Now where I live close to Balboa Avenue. And on Balboa Avenue, there is a stretch, a walk path. You could call it Malecon, let's say in Mexico. But here we call it the Cinta Costera. And that is beautiful walk path. People walk all day, not all day, every day there. And I try to go as often as I can. So if you like to walk, then you want to choose a neighborhood where you're going to have the walk path. You want to stay close to Cinta Costera, you want to go to Costa del Este, or you want to go to Volcan and those places where they have walkable areas. Hello, hello, hi. Yeah, Balboa Avenue. There is the Cinta Costera. Like, I just posted like a panoramic view that was on the Cinta Costera. But in Panama, when they have really busy road, they have the overhead walkways. That's how you cross the street. You don't try to run in front of a car. The police will get you for that. So that is what we do, okay? So I'm gonna put some edamame in here with some green beans, and then I'm gonna put them in the hot water. And then I'm gonna put them in a water bath, okay? So let me cover that. Let the heat concentrate so it will cook a little bit. All right. So that's what you do if you like to walk. But on Balboa, you expect to pay between $1,300 to $1,600 a month for rent because Balboa is right on the water. Okay, Balboa Avenue. There is a Balboa neighborhood which is different, and people always correct me. It's like, Balboa is not just Balboa Avenue. I said, yes, thank you. I love it when they keep me straight. Now, another area that people love, expats, is called San Francisco. That is still within Panama City. It's a neighborhood. Remember, we have 26. And they have lots of restaurants. It is a foodie area. You know, in Panama City, we have a bunch of rooftop restaurants. And that's something that you're not probably going to find in another part of the city. Another area that is very popular with expats is the Coronado area. Coronado, Gorgona, Nuevo Gorgona, San Carlos. So these are a little bit outside the city. Now, it used to be very difficult to drive back and forth to the city from those areas, but they just opened a stretch of the Pan American Highway, and people say instead of an hour and a half, it's going to take them only an hour to get to the city. Okay, so if you're in love with the city, the beach, that's a very popular area with expats. So keep that in the back of your mind. How far the hospital from El Cangrejo? not too far, not too far. El Congrejo is close to San Fernando Hospital, and you have to cross to come across my way. We have Santo Tomás Hospital, Hospital Nacional. So it's not too far. Now, another thing I was going to post yesterday, and I think I still will do it. I was walking to PriceSmart the other day from the metro station, and one of the traffic lights was out. And let me tell you, it was rush hour. And of course, you know, this is a city. The rush hour traffic is awful. You could sit in Uber for like 30 minutes and not moving, okay? So people need to understand that. So if you don't like traffic, you're not gonna like the city. Last year, I was living in an area that was way too noisy for me because culture in Panama City, drivers communicate with the horn, okay? So if they want to tell you to move, it's like beep, beep. So, and then if you don't move fast enough, like 10 of them buzzing, it's like a choir. And it got a little bit much for me. And that's why I tell people, rent for 6 months the first time. Garlic, I'm just putting some garlic and I have some onions. Rent, you know, for the first 6 months and see if you like the neighborhood, right? Yesterday, I heard a woman being interviewed and she said she's in El Congrejo, but she is staying at Hotel Panama or something, and they are renting to her. Like I said before, you have some hotels that will do long-term rental. So do it for 6 months and then see how you like it. The energy, accessibility, walkability, right? And then you sign a year lease. Now, my lease is up in December. And I was like, you know, do I renew or not? So I contacted my landlord and I'm like, okay, I need to make a decision because my lease agreement says to give her 30 days notice, but I like to be a little bit more proactive. And I said, are you going to renew the lease? And are you going to increase the rent? And she responded, she said, no, I've been happy with you. I'm not going to increase the rent. So I decided to stay for another year. And that's the other thing that we as retirees, so I'm going to put the pepper mixture in here. And that's one of the reasons that, you know, people talk about, you know, when you become a lessee, you know, you're a renter, and a lot of us haven't rented in so long. So it takes getting used to. Just getting the water. So what I want to do with the quinoa, I'm just going to cook the quinoa and then put that beautiful mixture in there. Look at that. Okay. So, ooh, that looks so pretty. Remember, you eat with your eyes. All right. Let's keep that over here. Now, I am going to just put some salt. Ouch. A little bit of oil and cook the quinoa, because what you want when you're cooking rice, you have the 2-to-1 ratio. Remember, 2 parts liquid and 1 part rice. Now, in order for me to have even better flavor, yesterday I had all these things leftovers. These are stems from like broccoli, spinach. So what I do, I just boil them and make like a stock. So when I'm cooking, I use that water that has all that flavor, and it's a slam dunk. So let's use that instead to cook our quinoa instead of the water. We had a water advisory last night that said, oh, they're doing some work and the water is going to be out from like 12 midnight to 9 a.m. Well, I have to tell you, in my building, we're never out of water. I've never had a power outage here because of where I live, okay? Because if I were living somewhere that in another area, they don't have a backup generator, I wouldn't have that. So, all right, so this is the water the way it looks. We're gonna leave it in here. I'm gonna put no salt, right? I'm gonna put a hint of olive oil. Now, again, hopefully you're not one of those people that I'm like, oh, no oil, no oil. I just don't believe in that, okay? So here are my peas. I'm gonna take them out of the hot water and I'm gonna put some water with ice cubes just to keep the color vibrant. I do not want them to become yellow and brown. And I think that's one of the reasons I love cooking so much, because you learn these little principles. Okay. So I put some ice cubes in the water. So that's gonna keep the color from going yellow. You know, one of the worst things for me is if I go to a restaurant and I ask for vegetable. There's a little restaurant right next door to my building. And sometimes I take people there. One day I ordered the fish. I allow myself that fried fish once a month. And they put some vegetable on the side and you can tell it was from a can. And I get offended. And I'm like, don't do that. Okay, so we could probably work on the salmon. I took the skin off, okay? You could leave the skin if you'd like, but this is from PriceSmart, and I don't really like frozen stuff, but we don't have salmon at the fish market here, which is a travesty. I don't know why. All right. So I am going to season. Fish, you don't need to season way ahead of time, okay? Because when you put acid in your fish, it starts cooking it. So fish is not like chicken. You don't need to, cook it ahead of time. And usually when you put the spices and the lemon juice, 5 minutes. And of course, you've been to restaurant where they don't even do that. They just take the whole fish and then put it in there. But I'm Caribbean. We have to season everything. So, I'm sorry. So a little bit of olive oil, just a little bit. And of course, when you cook fish, you have to put a little butter with the olive oil and then baste it. That's just the way it is, unless you're putting it in papillote in some foil and you're going to put it in the oven. And we're not doing that, okay? All right, so I put a little bit of oil. I'm going to squeeze some lemon juice, some lemon. The real thing, okay, guys? Do not tell me you buy lemon juice in a bottle. I'm going to be offended. Lemon or lemon juice only. Ooh. Okay. Then garlic, of course. All right, there it is. And a little bit of herb. That's it. Salt and pepper. Now, I'm going to have to put some pepper and salt in this. Now, salmon is one of those fish. It's like cod. They can pick up the flavor really easy, and they're very easy to cook. So you don't have to worry too much about what to do with cod or with salmon. If you were to just put a little bit of olive oil, salt, and pepper, it would be just fine. Okay. Looks yummy. You are from the show Good Times. I love that show. I cook so much I miss that part. Oh, okay. I don't use a lot of salmon, and I'm plant-based. Somebody asked for the salmon, but I don't usually buy it. That's why. And I like fresh fish. Now my favorite fish is what I buy in Orlando when I go home. It's called pompano. Anybody who's had pompano fish? I love pompano. But with my salmon, I'm also going to use these. After the salmon is done, I'm going to take it out and cook these a little bit so I can, when I'm plating, I have something to cook with the salmon. All right, the water is boiling. So San Francisco, I was talking about San Francisco. San Francisco, if you're looking for walkability, you may not enjoy San Francisco. The sidewalks are not very good. I mean, if you're gonna use Uber, they do have some bus stops, but we have no metro stops in San Francisco. That is a community that's a little bit older, and they don't have. All right, so I'm gonna put the now. The quinoa, it needs enough water to cook, because once it's done, you want it to be fluffy, okay? You have to give it enough time to fluff up. So that's it. I'm gonna go put anything else in that quinoa, but just a little bit of olive oil, okay? Because I'm gonna be mixing it with all this wonderful pepper mix. So that's it. Alrighty, so with this salmon, pepper. All right, let's go back to. Pepper, slap your mama. And a little bit of adobo. I never know what that means when it does that. It's okay, nothing is blowing up. And you know what I'm going to put in that salmon? I'm going to chop a little bit of rosemary, which I love rosemary, and a little bit of thyme. I had the hardest time finding thyme this week and last week, but I was able to find some, and it looks a bit different. San Francisco is also very accessible to hospitals. So if you stay in San Francisco, you're close to Paitilla Hospital. We have a hospital here that is affiliated with Johns Hopkins, and they are JCO certified. If you're in healthcare, you know what that means. So that is very good care. You know, I'm gonna do another video on insurance and health insurance option for expats. That is something that very important to people. And if you're older, which is, you know, my audience pretty much, you want to be sure you are closer to a hospital. And that's one of the consideration when you're trying to figure out where to stay, right? Here in Balboa, I am close to, there is hospital for children. They have Hospital Nacional, which is a private hospital, even though it says Nacional. And then we have Santo Tomas. So I'm close to two hospitals. And then if I go the opposite direction, I'm close to Paitilla Hospital, okay? And the hospital that is associated with John Hopkins, it's called, I think Punta Pacifica, Pacifica Salud, okay? Health Pacific or something like that in English. And they just opened another hospital in Costa del Este. Now those hospitals, the care, the technology, on point. So if you are an expat, if you have Medicare does not work here, right? Only if you have a Medicare HMO, it's going to cover you for emergencies. If you fall, you know, you have a heart attack, anything like that, but nothing that is elective. You know, you can't say, I have arthritis in my knee, I need a knee replacement. Medicare Advantage is not going to cover that. And the next enrollment period for Medicare Advantage is coming in November. And then if you want to switch to a Medicare Advantage because you want to come here, you need to make sure that ask your agent for a plan that is accepted here in Panama. Now, because so many of us are coming here, the hospitals are getting a little bit better at signing contract with those plans. Because what happens now, if you go to a private hospital, you have to give your credit card. And the hospital looks at your problem and they decide how much money we're going to charge your credit card up front. 5,000, 6,000, 10,000, right? And then once you finish and you discharge, they tabulate all the costs. If they had charged you more, they'll give you a refund. But now what we're trying to do as a group, and I think Jackie, who is another person on YouTube, they're working with the hospital to say, why don't you just do the billing for them and we don't have to pay out of pocket, okay? So other insurance plan, if you have international plans like Cigna, Aetna, I had an Aetna before I got here, then they do everything if it's an international plan. And then Panama City has some plans that are Panama owned, and you can go and accept that plan. But they do have age limits. And then depending on pre-existing conditions, it's very complicated. If you've had cancer, chances are you're not going to get a plan to cover you here in Panama. Maybe international plan. So you have to research those things before you decide to come. I have Medicare. I'm going to switch to a Medicare Advantage in November, right? That way, if I have an emergency, I'm covered. But most people here to go to the doctor, go to the dentist, get your eyes checked, we pay out of pocket for those. But remember, there is a public plan, public hospitals and private hospitals. And of course, the one with John Hopkins are private, Paitilla is private, Hospital Nacional is private. So when you decide where you want to live, that should be something to consider, the accessibility of a hospital. If you go to Boquete doesn't have a hospital. Someone said there's one in the plan. I don't know. You have to drive to the closest place, which is David, to get to a hospital. And many times, if you have a problem that is complicated enough, they recommend you come to the city. Another reason for me to stay here. Okay, I don't want to get into a situation where, not that I'm really crazy about getting all kinds of care, but that is something to consider when you want to move to a new area. The other thing I was going to say earlier is that when you're in Panama City with the traffic, if you have an emergency, we're going to start with the fish. If you have an emergency, right? Because the traffic can be so bad, you may not make it to the hospital in time, and you have to be okay with that. So what we tell people sometimes, depending on how close you are to a hospital, it might be easier for you to get an Uber. But that traffic I was in the other day, even an Uber couldn't get through it. So come to Jesus with your mortality and understand that things may not work. I keep thinking, I was in Africa and I was going somewhere outside the city and the driver was driving crazy. And I hear the same thing about drivers here, they drive crazy. And I'm thinking, if we get into an accident and there is we have trauma, chances are you might die because there is no helicopter coming to get you, okay? And by the time somebody calls a hospital, wherever they're at, to come get you, they may not really know how to deal with, what is going on with you at a high level 2 trauma. So understand these things when you're moving abroad. I remember when I was with the Peace Corps and I was looking at some people who have died, and a large portion of the volunteer who had died because of a traffic accident, trauma. You bleed out. That's the reality, you guys, okay? Okay, I will get Medicare Advantage. That's what I'm gonna get. You're welcome, Haley. My father is a night market train driver. I'm not looking to get married, thank you. So true, this is important. Jesus is so necessary. I need hospital near, yes. So wherever, like if you come and you're working with a realtor, make sure you tell them you need to be near a hospital. In Coronado, they have a clinic, hospital, San Fernando, they're like, oh, we have a hospital. It's not a hospital. It's like an urgent care clinic. They're not open 24/7, okay? So if you have an emergency in the middle of the night, you have to drive an hour and a half to come to the city. That's what I say. You might not make it, so you have to understand that. All right, so our quinoa is drying up, so I'm gonna cover it, lower the heat, and let it plump up. And then now we're going to get to the fish. Other question, elderly and health problem need hospital. Yeah, and the doctors here are amazing. Anybody who's been most people in hospitals. Now, I talked about the public system and the private system. We do have public hospitals here. And Panamanians, when they work, they pay into the system. There's something here called Caja de Seguro Social, CSS. They have hospitals that are CSS hospitals. Those are public hospitals. People say the wait is long. The care may not be bad because, one thing Panama does, just like Panama has a list of protected profession. Like myself as a nurse practitioner, I could not work here unless I'm a citizen. They protect the professions for their people. So you cannot be a doctor over there and say you're going to come here and work. Psychologist, psychiatrist, it's reserved for Panamanians, okay? So if what the government says is that the doctors, a lot of them have trained in the US and somewhere else, in Cuba and other places. The government says You have to work so many hours in the public hospitals, even though you're working in those fancy private hospitals. So what that says is that you get the same level of expertise with your doctors because they all rotate to the public hospitals. That's a good thing, right? But because they pay very little and the population doesn't have a lot of money, you end up sitting there and waiting, unless you have a doctor who will call the hospital and say, my patient is Miss Maggie's coming, and then that might help speed up things for you. Okay? All right. I'm gonna put a little bit of butter in my salmon. You know, it's not that much. And then I'm gonna throw in some rosemary, okay? Because again, I'm building flavor. So when you go to a public hospital, I had people who say, I went to the hospital, this guy said he had a hernia repair, and I think his bill at the public hospital was like $1,500. Compare that to what you would have to pay in the US. So that's why we're putting the salmon down. That's why, you know, we don't mind paying that. It's just that you may have to deal with the weight, but you get the same expertise and your bill is not gonna break the bank. You're not gonna go bankrupt because you have a surgery. Now, if you, I think somebody said this guy ended up with an emergency heart surgery, then had complications afterwards, and the bill was like $20-some thousand. You know, you're retired. You don't want that kind of bill. That's why I particularly think it's best to get the Medicare Advantage. Make sure you don't sign up for yourself. I'm a nurse practitioner. I know you could go to Medicare.gov and do all that by yourself. This is not one of those times when you want to do that. You want an agent, because when the bill, let's say we haven't worked with the hospital for them to do the billing for you. They charge a credit card and then they'll give you the, what do they call that? Something 1,500, which is the bill, and you submit it to the insurance company. Now you guys know what the insurance companies do. They kind of drag their feet. This lady said she had COVID, you know, she paid, submitted her claim. It took 8 months for them to pay her. And you know, she had to go through a lot of back and forth, because that's the American system, right? That's what they do. They do everything they can not to pay, okay? So our salmon is cooking. So I'm not gonna turn it yet because I wanna have a good caramelization at the bottom. Okay? So this is what we're dealing with here. And it's good to ask people who've been here, you know, how things work, because it can be tedious, right? But if you're gonna do your, you know, your annual exam, even a colonoscopy may not cost you a lot of money. So you want to make sure that you have some money. The one thing we don't have here, there is no such thing as indigent care, okay? So if you go into the hospital, make sure you have your credit card ready. You wanna go to the private hospital, you don't have to give your credit card, but at the end, before you discharge, you gotta pay the bill. The other day, we had a presentation for the ladies with a funeral home representative, because we were looking at cremation, you know, I'm basting this, okay, with the herbs, all right, with the rosemary, and that's gonna make that salmon taste yummy. All right, let's check to see if it's got the color that I want. Oh yeah. All right, we're gonna flip. Because the one thing you don't want to overcook salmon, right? Ooh, look at that. That's the beauty. Yeah, there is no indigent care. So you're going to have to find a way to pay for your care. Hospital, elderly, great to your doctor. Oh yeah, the doctors spend time with you. If they done, let's say, surgery or something, they give you their WhatsApp number directly. You call them, they check on you. And as I said, I'm a nurse practitioner, but they always say, oh, you don't see the nurse. I don't think they have nurse practitioners here. I haven't looked into it. But the doctor himself will call and follow up. The first visit, most people say they go see a doctor. The doctor will spend an hour and a half talking to you, getting your history, understanding what's going on with you, and taking you off multiple prescriptions. You know how it is in the US? We call that polypharmacy, right? You go to the doctor, they give you a medication. You say, oh, I have this side effect. And then they give you another medication for the side effect. Before you know it, you're taking 20. That's polypharmacy. And that is never good for anyone, okay? So, all right, right now I am putting my veggies. I'm taking the rosemary out because I don't want those twigs in my veggies. And just put that here. Ooh-wee. Look at that, you guys. Isn't that beauty? So I'm looking at this because I don't want to overcook the salmon. I want to be sure it's cooked but not overcooked. So yeah, we are very happy with the medical services here in Panama. It's just where you live, if you have access. And I tell people, my ladies, if you are a seasoned person, and you may be healthy right now, but it's only a matter of time before something happens, right? Because I keep saying this body's going down and people get offended. But isn't that the truth? The body is going down. So you have to have access to your doctor. I was doing a poll on a Facebook page and I said, what happens if you have an emergency? If you live like 5-10 miles away from the nearest hospital. And this guy said, well, Maggie, it's a good question because I had someone working for me and he stepped onto some glass and he was bleeding. And he said he could not find an emergency room close enough to take this man to. But you can bleed to death on something real simple. So he said he had the thought to wrap something tight like a tourniquet to stop the bleeding, put the worker in the back of his car and drive him where he needed to go. So when you move abroad, you have to understand that things don't work like they work in your home country. So you need to understand the risk that is involved in moving abroad. And like I say, come to Jesus with your mortality. Because for me, I'm not worried so much about what happens, but that's a possibility. You may not make it to the hospital in time. I think we had an expat die in the hospital of complication or something, and another lady not too long ago died in a car accident. We have a lot of very serious traffic accidents here in Panama because the drivers drive crazy. They don't obey the speed limit. I'm squeezing some lemon juice. They even in the rainy season when it's really rainy, they still drive above the speed limit. So when we have accidents, they're major. I think I was listening to the news. I have the news on all the time. That so far this year, they have had over 400 fatalities related to traffic accidents. Panama is a small country, okay? So that's significant. And I'm like, oh no. And that's one of the reasons I'm not driving. I've been here almost 2 years and I have not driven And okay, I think we're good. All right, ladies, look at this. Yeah. And you see how these vegetables are a little on the crudité. I don't want them to be overcooked. So I'm taking them off the heat. Voila. And now our quinoa is just about done. Quinoa. Now, again, I want you to look at that. You see how fluffy? That's what you want your quinoa to look like. It shouldn't be sticky, sticking to the bottom. It shouldn't be grainy. It should be like this, okay? So now, okay, let me get this one. We're gonna mix the quinoa with the veggies. So here we go. Putting the quinoa in here. Ooh, that's a lot. All for me. Wow. Last night I made an impromptu pasta. I was hungry and I was like, I'm not going out. And I made it. So now I'm going to add my peas and my edamame. Okay, use this one. All right. Green peas and edamame. You see, all nice and green. We're not gonna have brown peas. No, no, no. The thing is, if you put the peas in with the quinoa, they're gonna lose their color. Okay, so you have to cook them on the side, put them in an ice bath to stop the cooking, and then add them in. And the veggies. And then the only thing it might need is a little bit of acid. Remember, when you're cooking, if your taste is not up to par, just add a little acid. Now, this only had a little bit of EVOO. It's good. Let me get a little bit of acid. At this point, if you want to add a little bit of salt, you can. But as a seasoned lady with a history of high blood pressure, I have not had to take my medicine in a while, but I don't want to jinx it. Here we go. Always finish off with a little bit of, oh, I forgot the spinach. I think I'm gonna leave it out. I'm just gonna add some parsley. You know, there is something called in, I think in Mexican cuisine, cilantro rice, which is plain rice with cilantro cut. Nice. You can't go wrong. Yeah, I have the spinach. I think I'm gonna leave it out. Let's put some mint. Yeah, I have some fresh parsley. So that would replace the spinach. You have to be creative and change. You know, when one thing doesn't work, just go to the next thing. That's what being a good cook entails, right? All right, let's rinse and then chop, and that will be perfect. All right, any other questions, guys? Ask now. I look, you're cooking, I'm wanting my plate. Medianus rod and steaming veggies, perfect. But you know, I did a video not too long ago where I said that the amount of rice that we cook here in Panama is it's a little much. And again, because we are seasoned ladies, you just need to tone it down a little bit. Maybe not eat it every day, eat it several times a week. Because white bread, white sugar, white flour, when you put these things in your system, they turn to sugar. Those are the things we call simple carbs, okay? Learn to love quinoa, because quinoa, not only I'm going to Peru and they say that quinoa is so abundant, and I can't wait because I love quinoa. And it has a lot of protein. So if you're on a plant-based diet, you can replace protein with quinoa. And quinoa, you can have it hot or cold. So the one that I had there, if I had cooled it, you could put things, people put cranberries and grapes and other things in it. You can do that. But I'd rather do veggies and peppers. Woo, there it is. Here is the quinoa, you guys. Okay? So let's plate this baby. Oh, nice. I'm gonna eat good today. And I don't usually have salmon, so that is a treat for me. Now, in French cooking, we have something called monter au beurre. Monter au beurre is when you finish a dish, whether it's fish or rice, you put a little pat of butter on top and you mix it, and it just gives it that glistening glow. That's called monter au beurre. I was doing that when I was young, and when I went to school, they said monter au beurre, and I'm like, oh, that's a fancy name for it. Okay, let's see. Now, because I am here in Panama and I have gotten rid of all my kitchen stuff, do you know that was the hardest thing for me when I moved here? I did not want to carry everything, because when I came here last January, I was going to go to South Africa. So there was no reason for me to bring, my stuff. And I gave it all away. People would come to my house, bring their truck or their van, and just leave with like tons of stuff, all my bowls and stuff. That was the most traumatic thing for me. So traumatic. I'm like, oh, for Thanksgiving, you have bowls and you have turkey platters, and oh my God, I was so sad. All right, I'm not going to mold the quinoa today because I'm going to put the salmon on top. So we're just going to do this like a little mound and just sit the salmon right on top. And they have other grains like bulgur. Now, I cooked that one time and it did not sit well with my tummy. So I had to stop. It's like, okay, this is not going to work for me. All right. Let's put the salmon down on top. And then we have all those veggies. Woo. You eat with your eyes. Remember that. When you are serving food, if it looks good, it does something to your brain that says, oh, you got to try this. Okay? So that's why, as a plant-based person, sometimes I see people post something and I'm like, oh my God, that looks so dry. Are you going to eat that? And if the food doesn't look good, I can tell you there's a high likelihood that you're not going to stick to that plan, right? Because I refuse to eat food that doesn't taste good. I will not do it. All right, so let's see. Maybe we can put a couple of slices of lemon. You know, in culinary school, plating was just as important as cooking. So when you finished cooking and you had to present your plate to the chef, you were um, you were graded not only on the taste but also on presentation. And I remember when I used to bring my food to the chef, he's like, "Need more salt," and I'm like, "Chef, you're gonna have blood pressure." He's like, "Need more salt," because you know salt is it just it enhances flavor, right? So you don't want to be now as you season, you got to pull back on the salt. Okay, there is no you know, it's not a mystery that if you have a low salt diet, you can control your blood pressure. And with a low whole food plant-based lifestyle, I don't call it a diet, you can get, you know, be taken off your medication. In addition to exercise, I was in a class yesterday about the benefit of weight loss in health. So you need to do whatever you can to keep your weight under control. Is the finished product, you guys. Look at that. Now, how much? There was this lady, she has a channel. Every time she cooks something, she said, "How much would you pay for this?" I don't know. How much would you pay for this? Salmon and quinoa. Over here, probably $15 to $18. Okay? All right. So I delivered. You asked for salmon. We cooked salmon and we cooked quinoa. I know. It's beautiful. Thank you so much. So next week you guys can decide. I was thinking of making some veggie balls. Have you ever had veggie balls instead of meatballs? If you do the veggie balls and then you do a knockout marinara and you put it in the marinara, you could have it over pasta. You can have it over, you know, with quinoa, with any kind of grain, right? And I think someone said vegetable chili with cornbread, you know, jalapeno cornbread. We can do that too. So you guys let me know what you want. You haven't? No, I haven't. I'm not sure. Oh, $25. Yeah, it depends on where you live, right? Never had it. I want veggie balls. Okay, we'll do veggie balls. Veggie balls. Now, in the balls, I know it sounds weird, but I can make it with, you could put some chickpeas, you could do some black beans. Usually I do a mixture, and then all the veggies you see here with peppers and onions. You put, I use a little bit of cornmeal to dust it before I pan, not fry, but cook them. The binder, usually when I was making meatballs or even like a veggie burger at the restaurant when I was working there, I used to use an egg to bind the whole thing together. And also oats. When you're doing veggie ball, you are putting toasted oats, right? So I use coconut milk instead of the egg to do the binding. And then once you roll it, then I roll it into like a little cornmeal, and it kind of keeps everything together. And then you could put olives, I put capers, cilantro, you know, and then you season real good. And then you roll it, and then in the little cornmeal, then you put it in a little olive oil, and then you put it in that homemade marinara that I make with white wine. It's really good. And then you can freeze it. You could put it in like little bowls. Take them out of the freezer, and then the next day pop them in. Don't put them in the microwave. Just pop them on the stove, and then yeah, you can eat well. You don't have to eat meat all the time. I'm not saying for anybody to just quit eating meat, right? But as you get older, again, you need to pull back. You can't have steak 3 times a week because a lot of this stuff are inflammatory. And yesterday, that was the thing they talked about a lot in that seminar. It's like inflammation is the cause of a lot of our problem. Heart disease. Remember with COVID, everything was inflamed. Your brain can get inflamed. Your GI system. I've had ladies end up with a tube because the virus destroyed their stomach. Inflammation. So Google anti-inflammation diet and food and add some turmeric to your food, to your smoothies or whatever. Sometimes I'll put even in my food. I'll just put it in there. I buy fresh turmeric here in Panama. I peel them and then I cut them up and I put them in a little baggie. And then when I'm doing a smoothie, I just throw some in there, just like plain ginger. Just keep your body from being inflamed. You don't need to take an aspirin, but you can have food that are non-inflammatory, okay? Veggie bowl. Okay, chickpeas. I have lots of chickpeas. I eat a lot of chickpeas. My grandpa takes a bath. You guys have nothing to do. Immunity syrup with turmeric. Yeah, turmeric is, and then I use a lot of cinnamon in my smoothies. That's anti-inflammatory. Turmeric, ginger, all these things are good. Very good for you. You know, just be intentional about what you're putting in your body. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna hang here for a bit. Love to cook. Okay, well, now you've seen the finished product and we're done for the day. Unless somebody has a burning question, this is the time to ask it about Panama, about moving to Panama, life in Panama. The sun is out again. It's rainy season. It's gonna last till like November. And then December starts the high season. I think December they still have some rain, but January, February, March, January to May is the dry season, and it's also high season, which is when people come to visit. I don't know about that. I see a lot of people visiting Panama these days. A lot of us are coming over and checking it out. Organic cinnamon in my coffee. Yeah, I haven't put cinnamon in my coffee yet. Somebody said they put butter in their coffee. I like coffee just because some mornings I just feel like, and then if I just, and I'm embarrassed to say I don't have a coffee maker. I buy the instant stuff. Panama is known for good coffee. So they have a brand that I bought. I went to Price Mart the other day. It's like the Sam's of Panama or Casco. And this is a good brand of coffee. Duran is Panama owned, and it's great coffee. In the West, in the Boquete, the high Tierras Altas, the highlands, they grow coffee. And Panama has consistently ranked high in the geisha coffee that is super, super expensive. So we do coffee here. Coffee is big. I love it. Does San Francisco offer water views? Yes. My friend lives in a building called Terrasol, and then they have Terra Wind right over the ocean. And you can buy, they don't have, some of the buildings don't have like 1 bedroom. They're like 2+ bedrooms. And again, the prices, because of the ocean view, are comparable to Balboa. Balboa may be just a tad more expensive. So you're probably going to pay $1,300-1,500 a month for the ocean view. Hello, hello. It's easy to get things shipped there from the US. Well, because there's so many of us here now, there are oogles and oogles of companies that will, you can put your stuff in containers and they're going to bring it to you. They do door-to-door service. And in terms of mail delivery, last year it was a big to-do. Now they have so many places that are going to bring your packages from Amazon here. You just sign up with them. They give you an address in Miami. So when you order it from Amazon, you put that address in Miami and they know it's for you. And then 3 or 4 days later, boom, it's here. So things are getting a lot easier here in Panama. The only thing you're not going to get is mail service. There is no mail little trucks coming around and dropping mail. We don't have that. You have to use a service. Coffee is your drug of choice. Yeah, we have really good coffee here. Really good. In fact, one of my favorite pastime is to go to Elbrook Mall, and then I go in there, Duran, they have a little kiosk there, and and when I say cafe con leche, it's like a cappuccino, and then it's like $3, but it's really, really good. They have another place here called Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. I think it's Jewish owned. A lot of Jewish people here, business people, with the money. And they make the best chai. So whenever I want to treat myself, at least once a week, I'll get a chai. And then, you sit there with your laptop, you're just chilling and watching people. One of my favorite things to do. I heard windmills are there and more coming. Well, there is one, I don't know of many places, but there is one place, Panama. They have a bunch of them there for energy. And yeah, they're looking for sustainability and other sources of energy, and they should. Yeah. Anything else, you guys? We have been talking for an hour and a half. So have to catch a water taxi to get to Boquete? No, no, no. Boquete, you can drive to Boquete. It's like 7 or 8 hours. You can take a bus, a long distance bus that's also 7 hours from the terminal here to David, and then you take another bus for an hour to Boquete. So that's 8 hours. Or you can fly. You can fly Copa Airline, or they have Panama Air, I think. And then it's 1 hour flight. So you don't need a water taxi. Water taxis are in Bocas del Toro. Once you get there, is an airport there too. But because it's an archipelago, they have multiple islands. To go from one island to the other, you need the water taxi. In Bocas, not Boquete. I love watching you, Maggie. Oh, thank you so much. You're quite welcome. I don't mind sharing with you guys. That's what SWRA is all about. All right. Any other questions before I sign off? So next week we're making veggie balls. Maybe we'll make the marinara first and then the veggie balls. You're going to love it. I mean, even if you're a meat eater, it's always good to try something different, especially if it tastes good, right? If you're going to have something that's like, ugh, but I got you. It's going to be good. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. So nice to talk to you all, to chat with you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We need to get the subscriber count up. So tell your friends to subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. All right, guys. Bye. Happy Sunday. Mwah.